All right, welcome back, and let's actually get this guy moving now. So like I said, we've got him here, and we saw that we had a value coming out. Let's go back to the script and actually get something moving here. I'm just going to comment this out. So I'm just going to use my 2 forward slashes, and you notice it goes gray there, and that means it's in the script, but Unity is not going to run it. So what we're wanting to do here is actually get it to move. And so again, I'm going to put some code in here and then I'll explain it. So I'm going to use something, a new value, new data type called a vector3. Okay, and I'll explain that in a second. We're going to call it movement because that's what we're going to do to the ball. And then I'm going to say new vector3. I'll explain this in a second too. So new vector3, move horizontal, comma 0.0f, don't worry, and move vertical. Let's just get this code in. Okay, so if you need to pause it here, do that and type that in. So a vector3, first things first, it is talking about a vector. If you've done, I think they still teach it in science, or science 10, sorry, is a, it's basically an arrow. It's got a size, magnitude, and it's got direction. And so if you can imagine, if we're going to push this ball, we need to know where we're pushing it, the direction, and we need to know how hard we're pushing it. And that's what this movement 3 is going to do. It's going to hold sort of that push. And so we've called it movement, okay? And it's a new vector 3. And so the idea of 3 here is we're working in 3 dimensions. There's left and right, sort of, back and forth and up and down. And that's why we've got 3 things here, okay? So the move horizontal, it's sort of on the X, and then the Y, and then the Z. So in Unity, and we'll just go back to Unity very briefly here, you don't have to follow me, but X and Z are the axis that makes up the plane. The Y is the vertical. So if I go back to this code here, move horizontal is going to be along these x-axis, and move vertical is going to be along this z-axis, which indicates the plane. I put 0 under the Y because we don't have any vertical movement at the moment. Modification tip, perhaps you want to make that jump key into some vertical move, vertical y-axis movement. Okay, so that going up. So that would be something you could think about for later. So let's just see what this movement is giving me here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, just so I don't have to retype it. I'm going to decomment it, uncommented there. Instead of looking at the move horizontal, I'm just going to change that code to movement. All right, make sure you save it before you go back. If you get any errors, come back and look at this. I'm going to go into Unity. And now, what I'm going to do is watch my debug log again. So I'm going to click down here, bring up that window again. Okay, I can clear anything away. Now, when I hit play here, I'll get a difference going on now. Instead of just one value, notice I've got 3. That's my vector 3, X, Y, and Z. And so if I start pressing my keys, so I'm going to press towards the left, I'm expecting my 0 on the X one to become -1. There it is. And at the same time, I'm going to press the up arrow. And now just notice the Z value is now +1 there. And if I do the opposite, so up and then right, okay, 1, 1. And if I go down and to the left, it'd be negative and -1 on both. Okay, so the whole idea here is that as I input now, movement is combining both of those inputs there. Okay, now obviously the ball's still not moving. We got to do one more thing, and basically we need to add the force. So I'm going to go back to my script. Okay, again, I'm going to comment out my debug log there. I like to keep them in, just in case I ever have to go back and fix something. I've got it there. I could just uncomment and work with it. So in order to actually get it to move, what we have to do is access this rigid body. Remember before we said, oh, okay, this is where the physics lie. Okay, we've got a reference to it, so I can refer to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that rigid body, and to it, notice there's all these different things. And you can explore around, right? The first one, so add explosion force, whatever. We're just going to simply add that second one. We're going to add force. This little comment here adds a force to the rigid body. Notice it says force is a vector 3. So it needs to know, right, where you're pushing and how much you're pushing it. So in here, in this bracket, it's basically add force by this amount. We're inputting this movement. And like I said, that is, some X value, some Y value, and some Z value. Put a semicolon at the end, and then save it, and we go back to Unity. What we'll find is that our ball should move. So I'm going to get rid of my console. I don't need that anymore. Again, looking for any errors down here. No errors. We should be okay. The ball falls to the ground. I grab my, pushing my buttons. The ball is starting to move. Okay, you have now control of the ball. So through your script, okay, stop. Okay, through your script, you are now actually moving the ball around there. Now it's a little bit slow, so let's fix that up and think about what could we do to make it move faster. So if you think about it, okay, this is the movement here. So this is not only the direction, but it is also the amount. And if we think back to the values we're getting out of here, they were like 1. So maybe we need to add more than just one piece of force. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to come up to where we just put a variable in for our rigid body. And I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to use public. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And I'm going to call something, I'm going to call it speed. Oops, sorry. It's going to be a float. And it's going to be called speed. And so what this is a variable. Okay, so it's going to hold a value. It's going to be possibly a decimal value. And we're calling it speed. So what I'm going to do is down here, I'm actually going to multiply my movement by speed. So if you remember before, I had like 1, 0, 1. What it's going to do is it's going to multiply by whatever value I give speed, it's going to multiply it by that value. So if speed is 5, it's going to be 5, 0, 5, because 5 times 1 obviously is 5. So now we have a lot more force going into this ball. So let's take a look here. Save it again. Before we actually play it, I'm just going to talk very briefly about what's happened here. On my script, so I'm clicking on player, on my script over here, notice how I put that one as public. Now, there's a couple different reasons why public, effects of public, but one of the things is it becomes visible here. Notice by default, because I didn't set a value, it is set to 0. So if I play the game right now, 1 times 0 is 0. So actually my ball no longer moves. So a lot of people, oh, Mr. Fleming is broken. Not broken yet. It's doing what it should. You're multiplying your force by 0, so the result is 0. So just come in here. You can play around with the numbers. It's a bit of fun. I'm going to go 5 just to start with. And this you just have to play with, right, to see what it's doing. So again, let it fall. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely moving faster than before. It's not too bad. Okay. Notice if you fall off the plane, the ball falls off, and it actually fall forever. You can see on here, on the y-axis, okay, it's about 100 and 200 meters, 300 meters below now, okay? Don't worry about that. So I'm just going to hit that, turn off. Now, and we can restart. I think 10 is a good number, but, you know, whatever you like. 100 will be crazy, okay? But, you know, 10 makes it a little bit responsive, and yeah, now you can move the ball around. So have some fun there, play around with it. Now, a couple things, right? We need to make some improvements on the game. Probably the first thing you notice there, yeah, the ball does fall off, right? Falls off the screen. Probably a good idea to put some walls up. So we'll do that. The other thing that's a little bit problematic, of course, is the camera doesn't follow. And so as I move it around, okay, the ball can sort of disappear. Well, it's not going to disappear here, but it's obviously not following the ball there. So we're actually going to create another little script, and that's what we'll do next, to get the camera to follow the ball around. All right, so we'll end this video here and get the camera moving in a minute.